story came out today with Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who is a up-and-coming prospect of a coach. Jacksonville really liked him. And I'm a Jaguar fan, so I'm going to get this out. Jacksonville really liked him. And he was sort of their 1B to Ben Johnson. But Jacksonville's big problem was when they fired Doug Peterson 2 weeks ago, they retained their general manager, Trent Baalke. Trent Baalke, the guy who survived 3 firings with San Francisco, and the guy who survived Urban Meyer and that whole fiasco when he was hired with the Jacksonville Jaguars 3 years ago. The guy is a coach killer, and he survived it because, for some reason, Shad Khan, the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, him and Trent Baalke were hand in hand. He said, we're sticking with our guy. All of a sudden, that Jacksonville job becomes a whole lot less desirable. Liam Cohen, of course, was the main guy circled on Jacksonville's list once Ben Johnson went away. Liam Cohen made the headlines today by withdrawing himself from consideration for that Jaguar job. Withdrawing himself.
He'd rather be the OC in Tampa.
This is and Ben Johnson made it abundantly clear that if I don't think this is the right spot, I'm going back. I think he let a little bit of a blueprint with that. Liam Cohen's doing the same thing. And Ben Johnson was wrong to leave Washington. But Liam Cohen, on the other hand, I don't want to go near that. What does Jacksonville do? They fire Trent Baalke as a result of this. So now they let their general manager go 2 weeks after the whole fire sale of every staff in America. They kept that general manager because this is our guy. The owner trusts him. I believe in his vision. He's had 2 separate number 1 overall picks in the draft. Most GMs never even get 1. Mm-hmm. And if you have 2, that is a reflection of how you are as a coach. Harbaugh got out of San Francisco because of his clashing with Trent Baalke. He survived Urban Meyer. He's a weasel. He survives. He's a rat. He gets himself through all the rubble.
He must be, he's got silver words.
But I think it's just, bottom line, the worst run organization, the worst run coaching search I can remember. Because now all of a sudden all the great candidates are out of town. All the great candidates are with other teams. Ben Johnson's, even Aaron Glenn, if you thought he's great. I don't, but people think he's great. Vrabel. But now let's make our decision to move on from the head coach because it took Liam Cohen, the guy who was called by one team, the guy who was called by just Jacksonville, to withdraw himself from the search for the owner to have an epiphany. Oh, maybe this isn't the right general manager for the job. As laughable of a situation, and it makes that Jacksonville whole situation and their ownership, their leadership, look worse than it already has. And that is something to behold.
I could argue it's best case scenario. You've wanted that guy out for years.
I've wanted them out for years. It's just a bad look. It's good riddance. This should have been 2 weeks ago. Because now they're going to be stuck with Bob Saleh and Bob Saleh's Island of Misfit Toys coaching staff as their next head coach.
You think it's going to be Bob?
I don't know. I hope it's Joe Brady. I hope it's somebody else. Todd Monken. I know Theo doesn't like him, theoretically speaking, but he doesn't like him, but maybe him. Offensive-minded. Give me somebody young. Keep me away from Pete Carroll. Keep me away from Mike McCarthy. And keep me away from Robert Saleh.
Colin, I remember when Owner Khan said in training camp that this was the most talented team the Jags have fielded.
Yep.
And they won 4 games.
Oh,
and if you remember, let's rewind to when they fired Peterson. He didn't like the direction. The rumor was that they met after the season, Khan, Peterson, and the whole brass. And Khan didn't like the direction Peterson was taking the organization. So he gets rid of Peterson. But I find it hysterical and so Jaguar-esque. And partner, I could relate for the miserable team I root for too. I find it so Jaguar-esque that it took Liam Cohen to pants the organization to fire the GM who's been there. How long? How long has he been there?
4 years. 4 years. And he survived through San Francisco much too long as well. So
it took let's call it for what it is.
It took Urban Meyer and that disaster that Doug Peterson had this past season too to get rid of him.
A first year, and I could be wrong on this, correct me if I am. I believe this was Cohen's first year calling plays because Canales was there the year before.
He was the Rams offensive coordinator, then he was Kentucky's offensive coordinator, then he was Tampa Bay's offensive coordinator. It was 3 years, 3 different spots.
Regardless, a pretty new name on the block, all right, for head coaching candidates. It took basically a no-name to pants your organization to fire a guy who probably should have been fired a year and a half ago.
And you should have heard what they said right when they announced that Baalke was staying. They called a press conference. It was Baalke and Cohen on a Zoom with all the media. And Shad Khan, the owner, opens it up, gives his PR statement saying that this is our guy. I trust Trent. He's been good with the organization. Oh, we love his drafting. A bunch of crap that nobody believes. And to one credit, one beat writer who had the guts to ask this said a couple things. They said, if a coach comes in and demands that Baalke is fired, do you consider? And with Baalke right next to him, Khan goes, yeah, I would probably consider. Talk about a vote of confidence in your general manager. And another thing, another person said, well, if this was another media member asked Khan, well, Chad, if this was such a big problem and you need to kind of change the direction of the organization, walk us through the decision-making process behind not cleaning house.
Yeah.
And cleaning house in the NFL term means getting rid of your general manager and head coach and the coaching staff. That's what that means.
Right.
Yeah, sure, all the other people with titles, maybe they get different jobs. It's really it's not the big part of the deal. Shad took that question, the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, took that question and answered it. He's like, well, we have great doctors. We have great chefs. We have great equipment staff. Why would we get rid of all of them just for new people to start? That's 80-plus people. Shad, the equipment staff, the chef, who cares about the chef? The chef could stay. Nobody cares if the chef could stay or leave. Nobody cares about that. We're talking about the general manager. He used that to dance around the question.
Correct.
That, well, why would we clean house and get rid of all the health staff, the great professionals that we have in the building? Chad, nobody cares. Nobody is asking about that. 0 people. What a laughable situation for the Jaguars.
There are 3 disasters, 3 major car wrecks and disasters in the NFL right now. One being the Jags, the next being the Jets, and the third being the Browns. And I don't know if either are fixable, if I'm being completely honest.
Well, Aaron Glenn, they brought him Mr. Savior all of a sudden. We get the leader of men tagline stamped above him. How is he in a big game?
Hang on. Can we rewind to yesterday?